One.
Greetings and salutations, it's yours truly, Slang Hugh. And we're here with another installment of Darkness with a Ginger Hue. And this is a special one. Because we're all in the same place. Notice there's no panels on the cameras or nothing. It's all of us on the couches together. I got my bro with me. Introduce your damn self.
And I'm here in the flesh. Yes. That's right. It's me, the BEAST. All the way from the sticks to the six. Just how we used to do it, right? Love it. Love it. I am happy to be back here. Home. Can I even call it home anymore? I've been gone
Home
for
is
like,
all,
How many
home is
years?
where the heart
I've
is.
been
Is
gone
that
for
what you
10
say?
years.
I still call Winnipeg home. I've been gone for 20-something years.
I call Jamaica home. I never lived there. So there you have it.
Well, there you go. Well, I am back in my city. I say my city because this is where I'm from.
There you have it.
So I enjoy the fact that I was coming here. Now let me tell you about the.
Hold on. Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have
I'm
another
anxious.
Pegger, which is the worst name for anything ever. I don't know why. I don't know whoever came up with that.
What do you want to call us?
You get the
Winners?
Paggers.
Winnies?
Winnie's is a little
Winnies?
bit more. It's a little
Winnies?
bit
Wait, it
more.
should be winners.
Winners.
It's a little bit more
Oh,
PG
I got talk
than
to her here,
Peggers.
then.
Winners, come on.
Winners.
But we have another Pegger in the building.
Yes.
Introduce your damn self, please.
No, I was going to rap, but they said I'm not allowed to. They literally specifically said I'm not allowed to rap. So I'm not a rapper, but I am Devon MD Jones, and originally from Winnipeg. Now I live in Toronto. I've been here for since I left Winnipeg in 1996.
Damn.
That
Yeah.
was my first visit.
So yeah, you guys know why I have on this jersey right now, and that no, I don't care about the team, but I like the look of it, and I decided to wear it today to fit in, because I'm the odd man out. They're telling me I go nowhere, people. So, but yes, Toks here in the building.
I am.
How was the trip?
Trip was odd.
What?
Honestly, I claim this is my city, but it's not the same anymore.
What
I'm sure
happened?
it's not.
Okay, first off, I planned this trip. I told you about the trip from time. Planned the trip out. Everything was smooth sailing. Get in there,
Excuse me.
checked in online, got everything packed, pre-packed, ready to go. Got my ride, head to the airport. Simple, easy peasy. I said, okay, no problem. I even got there, I believe you're supposed to get there an hour before on domestic flights. I could be wrong. But I was there an hour and a half early, so I'm like, okay. So we get in there, and as I was sitting in the plane, because it's a 2-hour flight, they give you option to buy an hours of internet.
Okay.
Or you buy, I guess, a flight pass. So the hour is $6 and whatever and change. I'm like, let me get the $21 full pass, whatever. I said, okay, ching, pay for it, no problem. And then he said it's going to start working as you hit the altitude and turn off whatever you need to do to go on airplane mode. I'm like, okay, turn it on. And it's not working. I asked the same, excuse me, flight attendants. Wonder, is the internet on? Yeah, it should be on. Okay. I said nothing. This black lady comes to me. I said, hey, Miss, before you serve any drinks, can you make sure the internet on? The internet's not working.
And you paid for it?
And the Asian man says, yeah, it's off and on from time to time. I'm like, off and on? Did
And
tell
you
the person
paid
that I
for
paid
it?
21 bucks for it?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, fine, no problem. So then I'm like, okay, let me charge my phone and just, try to do something, whatever. The outlets that are in my road, they don't work.
Of course not.
So I said, hey, excuse me, sir. I'm just wondering, why are these red lights on? Is that supposed to be, oh, they're not working. But again, the flight wasn't full. Says, hey, yeah, go sit anywhere you want.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay.
Plug in, fine, I'm charging my phone. I can't really use it yet, but I was waiting to see if I can check back in from time to time to see if the internet kicks in.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, no problem. So then I'm like, I don't really like sitting on a plane by myself, and there's no one to talk to, so I'm going to watch a TV show or a movie. Go on the screen, all right? Creed, no problem. Click,
That'll be
unavailable.
Oh my
Like,
God!
What the heck?
What?
Unavailable?
They wanted you to meditate.
I was like,
That's what
what
they
the heck? The only thing that was working on the screen was the About Us, about Air Canada, and the stories that they have going on with the changes in Air Canada.
I don't
like,
feel like this is a coincidence.
I was like, I was falling asleep. I'm like, never mind. I'll just pass it. And I don't like sleeping on a plane. Plane rides for me,
Was it
no,
a fear thing?
it's been a fear for
Yeah?
Like I was comfortable this time, maybe
Yeah.
because I was just so excited and so enraged of what was going on. But most of the time, I'm just hitting everything. So I'm like,
Yeah?
okay. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I've been like that since I was 10. Flights to me are not fun.
What happened?
It just the fact again, just like roller coasters.
The
Once
idea.
I have that feeling of lift,
Yeah.
my body just
Uneasy.
uneasy. Yeah, it just.
So here's a question I asked her. Do you look through the window when you're taking off?
That's what I do now. And that's
You
what
do
helped.
look through the
I
window?
do now. Yeah.
And it helps with the fear?
It helped
Interesting.
because I'm looking at the lights. I'm not looking at the flight. I'm just looking at the lights.
Okay.
That's
okay.
it. I see. Oh, the city, beautiful. But if I'm in the middle row and I'm like this, that's when I grab.
Yeah,
I'm
because
like,
you don't. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess because you don't know.
I
What's
think
going
it's
on.
like your perception, right? Like of what is happening versus when you actually see it, you can kind of be like, okay, I can conceive this.
That makes sense.
Well, yeah, because my mind saw what was going on and it made sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
If
That
I
makes
don't
sense.
see it, my body's saying, "What's going on?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?"
Yeah, yeah. That
So I'm
makes
like,
sense.
okay. So
However, when I've been on a flight, like I was telling her, with the guy who's just as scared, all he's doing is looking through the window, like, "You okay? You okay? You okay?" I'm like, bro, stop looking through the window, bro. Like, it's not.
You're just tormenting himself. Just chill out, guy. But yo, can you see? Yeah. But that was again the first part. We got in 10:30, perfect time. They flew that thing perfect, no issues, perfectly on time. And I get to the airport, and the airport is not what I left it, because it is different. It is
Very different.
It is 3 cities in one.
Yeah.
So I usually, come in and, go to the escalator. I had to trek.
Oh, it's a trek.
And then go
Especially,
up.
especially Winnipeg.
Oh.
When you go to leave, there's probably like an extra gate. Like it's not even like gate 2, it's like gate 2 CBD. You have to go downstairs. You have to walk down a hallway. Like,
So I'm here chasing, trying to figure out where to get my bag. I get to my bag, I'm like, great. And again, there was not many people on the flight, so it was quick to get our stuff. Got my stuff, and I'm looking at my itinerary. I said, oh, my rental. I said, okay, no problem. Then they said, wait a minute. I go to the car rental places. Yeah, your place is off-site. Off-site? What do you mean? And then they said, yeah, you got to check through I guess their prompts to see how to get there. So they have a shuttle. So again, the recording tells me, okay, if you're needing to get to this site, please take the elevator to level 5. Take it across to the train station. Take this train all the way to terminal blah blah. Go down the stairs and then call us on the courtesy phone. I'm like, what the hell? Is this a treasure hunt? What the? That's the stupidest thing I
Sounds like
did.
an Amazing
I didn't know
Race.
which one was a courtesy phone.
Amazing
so
Race for real.
I jumped off the escalator. I think, oh, I'm ready. Looking outside. Outside's there. Great. I see a phone. I pick up the phone. Like, hello? This is emergency. Emergency!
oh
I said,
no.
is this not the courtesy phone? No, it's on the other side of the escalator. I said, damn it!
I'm surprised they still have those.
But you could tell it's happened
Oh.
a number of times because they're like, no, it's
Yeah.
over there.
So I went over there, called them, and they said, yeah, are you returning? I said, yeah. Okay, we'll be there shortly. No problem. Within minutes,
Okay.
two East Indian men came in with their white van full of logos of rental places. I'm like, okay. Took my bags in, put it in, jumped in, drove 3 seconds. Not even, just a 3-second drive. I'm like, okay. and the funny thing is, you can't get out. They took off the handles on the inside, so you can't leave. So you have to wait for them to open the door for you.
Sounds
I'm
like-
telling you, that's
You get in
freaky.
traffic.
That's freaky shit.
Sounds
right
like an
there.
unsub van.
So I'm like, all right. So I said, thank you. He said, no problem. So I walk in there. I said, okay, I'm here to pick up my vehicle. He said, yeah. Weren't you supposed to get it yesterday? I said, yes. That's my error. I thought I was going to be leaving on the 19th. Instead, I came on the 20th. And they said there would be no problem. They adjusted. I said, no problem. Driver's license and credit card. And I used the card, my Visa debit, that I used to book the thing and gave him my license. So he's there, typing away.
I already know what's going to happen.
And I'm like, what's going on? He says, sir, is this a Visa card? I said, yeah, Visa debit. Oh, we need credit cards.
Rental cars don't take.
Again, I'm not a person that travels. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, can't you just get the deposit? I said, yeah, no problem.
It's a big
And
deposit.
it's $1,000.
Yep.
I said, $1,000.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, no, it's not like I don't have it. I said, go ahead, charge it. He goes, no, you can't. Our machine doesn't do it. So you're saying because your machine doesn't do it, I can't get the vehicle?
So what were you supposed to do then? I don't understand that.
I have no idea.
They take a deposit of $1,000, but their machine doesn't
The
take
machine
the
doesn't
deposit.
take the deposit.
So what, you supposed to bring cash?
So I didn't know. So I'm like, you know what? Whatever. So I called my buddy today. I can't get this vehicle. He says, yeah, just Uber my place and I'll be good. I said, okay, no problem. And Ubers, not for some reason, but I know, but just like taxi drivers, they sit out there waiting for people who need an Uber. And in 3 seconds, this guy's there, took me to my destination, and that was that. So I got there and just sat there. I didn't probably go to sleep till like 2 o'clock in the morning because I was just winding down.
Yeah.
Man, this is how it is to travel.
Travel, I know.
I don't want to travel.
You always think
The
you want to
getting there and
travel.
getting
It is,
is not the-
but sometimes travel is so stressful
Yeah,
and
okay.
so
Shouldn't be. Like,
annoying.
the plan was perfect. I had everything good to go, and I said myself and Slang, we're going to go out to the game, and I'm excited. But the process to get here is so stressful that I don't even want to do it again.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like everything. It's something you can get used to, though.
You do. Because I travel a lot, and it's like you just get used to it.
Yeah.
And it just like, but the thing is, the funniest thing about your story, everything worked out.
Exactly.
Everything worked out.
That's the part.
Like
That's
it, and
the focus.
it could be so much worse.
Well,
Yes.
It could be so much
Here's the
worse.
conclusion of the whole thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't get the rental, so myself and my buddy trying to, I guess problem solve. What can I do? And they're throwing out ideas. They said Uber rents cars. I'm like, okay, Uber.
I did not know that.
That I did not know it, but again, they need a credit card situation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then they told me about Zipcar.
Mm.
Problem solved.
Mm.
It's a bit more, but I'm gonna get the car.
Okay.
So right now I'm driving a zip car. And again, these zip cars are placed everywhere in the city.
Yeah.
So they took it out of my credit card that I already have on file,
Right.
and they said they just charged me. So $200 for today, tomorrow, and the day I have to let it go.
Okay.
And free gas. So they have a gas card, pays for all the gas for you. You take a picture
So
So
of
it
then
ends up
doesn't that
being
work out to
cheaper.
be cheaper? Yeah, I was just gonna say.
With
If
the
I
way
wanted
gas,
to drive anywhere, I could drive anywhere.
good to know.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So again, I'm assuming because it was so short notice, it was the price it was. But again, you can either have it for hours, days,
days.
or
So you just take it to the groceries and
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Ah,
that is a service that I would definitely recommend for people who don't travel as often and don't have the physical car.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's an option. You can just pre-plan that. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
that again. After that, like I said, I was with my friend Sean. And she said, "You know what? Everything worked out. Like you said, everything
Yeah.
worked out.
Right.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. The least enjoyable part of traveling is the travel.
It's the traveling
Once you
too.
get
But a lot of
there,
people
You're
say
fine.
no. A lot of people like the travel.
Some
like
people do.
like the
Yeah.
packing, like the flying, like the
Some people
atmosphere
do.
on the plane.
I don't know anybody, but I know they
I know
exist.
one person.
Only travel I enjoy is driving. I like
Yeah,
going
if
distance
I
travel.
drove to
But I
Ontario.
think that's part of the having control of the situation more. You could do what you want while you're driving. You can stop if you want.
Yeah.
You're listening to your own music. It's a
Yeah.
bunch of more control. I think that's what part of it.
No, you're
That's
right.
true.
You're right. But again, the distance. Again, if you're doing it solo, I wouldn't recommend because I've done it solo a few
Yeah.
times. Driving from Winnipeg to here solo. is
Wait, how many hours is it?
22 and a half.
What did you say?
23.
Oh,
Again, depends on the time of year you're going and depends on the construction.
yeah.
Because the time when I was going back then, there was a lot of construction, so you have to kind of slow your roll. And if I told you a story about that trip,
We'll
And I'm
save
sure
that for
my-
another show.
I'm sure my dad drives slower than he does.
Oh wow. we'll save that for the cross country tour.
yeah, you just get ready. When you come here, you tell me. When you drive up here, you tell me your story. I'll tell you mine about driving through Northern Ontario as a black man in a Honda Civic. But anyway,
Hey,
That-
if it's as a black man, we might be talking about it today.
That's our
So we're
segue.
Segue, man.
That was a great segue.
It was indeed.
All right, so what we wanted to talk about today. Oh, look at me taking over.
No.
And welcome to the Devon MD Jones show. I am your host, and these are my guests.
Technically, she is now the ginger of the here. Hey, you want control? You got it.
All right, so the questions that we were asking is so let's start with like what is your cultural background, because we want to talk about what it's like growing up Black in Canada. I feel like it's touched on here and there, but I feel like it could be talked about more, right?
Sure.
So let's start with everybody's going to answer what's their cultural background and what has your experience been in Canada in relation to your cultural background. And go.
Well, I am a jam can, Jamaican Canadian background. I was born in Canada, born and raised in Canada. My parents are Jamaican, first generation Canadian. How does it affect, or how is it? Sorry, what was the second part of the question again?
This was your questions, just FYI.
You didn't have to say that, right? Doesn't mean I'm going to remember it. I gave you the question like 45 minutes ago.
Just said FYI. What was it like growing up in Canada as a first generation Jamaican Canadian?
Yeah, see, that wasn't the question I did. So, well, it's a very good and complex answer that probably is going to take the entire show for me to answer. But
give us the Coles notes.
Okay, what I will say, growing up in Canada as Jamaican, is that I think we were especially for much of the 80s, probably 70s before my time, we were the quote-unquote dominant Caribbean culture in Toronto especially. So that, I think, on the positive side, made it a little easier because there was a support or a actual community that was thriving as I was growing up. So things like Eglinton West, for example, existed.
What happens on Eglinton West for those that don't know?
Well, they consider is considered to be called Little Jamaica. So a lot of the shops there are Caribbean owned even to this day. From the restaurants to the hairdressers to the barbers to the furniture shops, clothing shops. Yeah. They were either Jamaican or Jewish, pretty much.
Yeah, you're right.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So that having even just that strip to go to, you're hearing the music, you're seeing the people, the banter. It gives you somewhat of a comfort. Other than now, I can't say I understood that comfort until I was like maybe a preteen, like 11, 12. And much of that is because my parents, we went to church in that area. Like Vaughan and Oakwood is where we went to church. So that experience was always there. As well, I would say that we kind of were surrounded, like family friends were pretty much all Caribbean. Even if they weren't Jamaican, they were pretty much all Caribbean. Of West Indian descent, yeah. Either Grenadian or Trinidadian. There are a few Guyanese people that I grew up around. I don't know if I know any Bajans. But anyway, shout out to Bajans thing. So yeah, that's the positive side. I'll leave it there for now. We'll get into some negative afterwards because I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
Well, me, I was born in Nigeria. Came here six months after. And I hate to say it. No, I won't say I hate to say it. But growing up in the 80s, for me, the early 80s, was easy.
In Toronto?
Yeah, it was easy. Because there was no real pressure. There was nothing that I had to live up to. Because the culture shock was just so real for everybody. Because there was no Africans around. So when you saw my dad, stature, size, accent, you were just like, oh, who is this? Again, this was early 80s. Like, who is this? He sounds so different and whatever. And then how he raised us with the strictness. They're like, oh my gosh. Like, yeah. And like, we had to tell people, yeah, this is normal for us. Don't be shocked. It is what it is. So going through the motions, when people started getting used to it and we were like the family. Like everybody, it's not we were the model family, but we were like the standard when it came to new people coming. They said, oh, have you talked to Toks' kids? whatever. Have you seen Toks family? Whatever. And that's where they would bring most, again, not all, but most would go to our daycare that we used to go up to, our elementary school. People feed us, say, hey, talk to these guys, they go to this school. And then the high school, talk to these guys. So we were just the standard of that time frame. Later on, when we kind of got our wits about things and times have changed, there's 4 of us, so myself being the oldest. My 3 younger brothers went North American, more so they didn't really follow culture, where I stayed with culture. Whereas I had to maintain the house, I had to make sure everybody was okay, right? I kept the roots in the house, outside the house. I was the overprotective brother, making sure everybody went to class, or they were eating right, or whatever. I was that family guy. So that's what everybody saw for me. And again, people saw that, and they say, hey man, just live a little. I said I couldn't. Culture made me this way. I can't leave it. From like I was talking to my friend Sean today, he said, when I was doing geography projects, it was always on Nigeria. I'd come dressed in gear, ready to go, proud of it. And people were like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, this is what we do. This is the normal dress. And it's not even elegant. So I just love the awe that I brought out in people when they saw me. And people saw that in the upbringing, saw it in my family, saw that in family friends. To this day, I'm proud to say that there's about 4 families that I know have gotten kids out of our family, our cultural get-togethers. They met men and women through our parties and cultures. So I was like, man, that was the 80s was the best time for me ever living. I was just, if I can go back, I would relive that again. But yeah, living.
You wouldn't relive it again.
You would.
I would.
Oh, I thought you said you wouldn't. I was like,
yes, I would. That was the best time for me. So again, living in the 80s as an African man was easy for me because there was no real pressures.
Okay.
Now, if you do that now,
We'll get back to that.
Yeah,
I have a question about that too.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, born and raised, home of the Jets, and my parents are from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But I was born and raised in Winnipeg. I always really, really applaud my parents on the fact that they kept us in our culture, right? So same with what you were saying about the association. So we had the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Association of Winnipeg. My parents were always on the boards of that association. We were in the dance groups. We were in the youth group.
So Folklorama and all those
Yep,
things?
I was the youth ambassador.
What is it?
Folklorama?
So Folklorama is a
Folklorama?
cultural festival that happens.
Oh.
It's one of the biggest ones in North America.
Oh,
It
yeah?
happens in Winnipeg.
The place shuts down.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
yeah?
2 weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks, and
It's a
people
big-
come from all over the world.
Okay.
People fly
Yeah.
in
For
to
that?
volunteer.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
People from Brazil, people from Antigua, people from Japan fly in
Really?
to
That's
volunteer.
serious? Wow.
It's
And
that's
they
really
don't
amazing.
volunteer in their own culture.
Culture.
They'll go to somewhere
Yeah.
else to
That's
volunteer.
dope.
and
That's
that was a really great way to see other cultures. So like as a teenager, because I used to dance all when I was a kid, and then I took a break for a while. I think it was just because for my parents it was a lot because we were all playing. There's 3 of us. I'm the youngest of 3, and we were all playing sports, band, musical, like we were just so all over the place that for a while we didn't dance in the dance group. There's probably a deeper underlying darker story that I don't know about
Okay.
that I probably don't want to know about.
There's more to it.
But I digress.
Stay tuned for our Unsolved Mysteries Pod.
But I ended up coming back as a teenager, and because I started dancing when I was 5, and that was like that's when I fell in love with like being center of attention on stage. I was the youngest one in the dance group because I would go to the dance practices with like my siblings, and I'd be in the corner and I wasn't allowed to dance. And to the point, and I'd be there practicing and trying to do all the dances, but I didn't have very good rhythm. So then they ended up giving me a solo. So I literally had this one dance where I did like 4 moves, and then I came in and I did my little dance, and everybody would be like, "Oh, she's so good!" And then I come off the stage and they finish the dance, you know. And that was like my thing for like years.
That was your
Yeah,
moment.
that was my
Even
moment.
though it wasn't a great moment, but to you, that
Yeah.
was your moment.
that time. For
But
sure.
it's also a big reason why when people are always like, so like when I got older and I had to do things like give speeches or I started performing, you know what I mean? Like, and then like when I was in high school and whatever, I ran track and I had to do like interviews with the news and whatever. And people were like, "Why are you so comfortable like on a microphone?" And I was like, "I've been on stage since I was like 5 years old."
Yeah.
So you didn't really,
And that was because of my culture.
Well,
right?
Was it someone specific in your culture, or just the culture in general that kind of brought you out to the world?
Well, it's because of being a part of the association that gave us like the opportunity to do that, right?
Okay, yeah.
Like Winnipeg is not a densely black populated city, right?
So it makes it more interesting.
Exactly, right? So like, but the thing is, I would go to school and I'd probably be like elementary school. There was Maria, Troy, Dane, and then Maria left and Diane came. His cousin, his cousin came, and then Alicia. So there was like 5 of us in my grade, right? Notice how I can name everybody.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Right?
I was gonna get to that.
I was gonna get to that.
I was like, there was us, right? And then like Maria was there, and then Diane came, and Alicia. Like we weren't all there at the same time. Just me, Dane, and Troy were the staples from kindergarten until grade 6, right? So those 3 were my yeah, and they were Guyanese. Diane's Nigerian. Maria is Jamaican. And then Alicia is Trini, I think. Yeah, Trini. So yeah, so like up until grade 6, it was like I go to school and I'd be in this very white world. My neighborhood, I lived in a very white neighborhood. And then, but every single weekend, my dad is one of 10 kids. And every single weekend, his 9 siblings and all their children, we got together every single weekend, unless we were at the association event. And everybody was at the association events, which is like even more, you know? So it was just like my culture, my blackness, all of those things have been like a strong part of who I am. And it's like, I am very tied, even though I've never lived in St. Vincent, I am Vincentian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can't take that away from me.
It's like I was just saying, I've never lived in Jamaica, but I considered that home.
Yeah.
Like I feel more at home there than I do here in many ways.
I hate to say it, I stand out like a sore thumb.
In Nigeria?
Yeah, just because.
Oh, I do too in Jamaica.
Yeah,
know, right?
but it just,
They know you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They know.
I've had an experience where he didn't know.
Oh.
I had not that he didn't know that I didn't. He knew I wasn't living there, but he thought I was Jamaican. Like he thought I was born in Jamaica and I was just coming back.
I get that in Vinci now. Now,
Well,
not
see,
when I was younger, but now.
They get that. I get that too, only because I look like my dad. So my dad's a big time chief back there. So when they see me traveling, you get that 3rd degree. Hey, chief, can you give me some money? So everybody,
Say Prince Hakeem.
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm going through. Like the last time I was there, I was going through bag checks, and this guy said he's working security. He said, "Hey, can you give me a little money?" I'm like, "I'm going back home. Just give me something." I said, "Whatever. Here's some shirts." Boom. And he's excited.
Yeah.
He's excited because it's something that no one else he knows will have. So I'm like, okay, no problem. And ever since then, anytime, even if I'm going next year, I'll bring a boatload of stuff and leave with half of it because I don't need it.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
And I'm like, okay with it.
That's repatriation as they
But
call
like
it.
you said, when you go back home, you feel that is your home.
Yeah.
And yes, my family makes me feel like it's home. Like I never even left the country. It's just so comfortable. Like I sat there in 2012 and I felt like it was my house.
Yeah.
And it is our house. It's built there.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there I'm like, man, this is so comfortable.
Yeah, you feel, I can
The
see
vibe
it.
is just there, and it's because of family.
Yeah.
Family, and that's why I love my family when they're there. Like when you're not there and they don't realize the time difference and they're calling, blah, blah, that's it. But when they take care of you, I'm telling you, I won't have to pick up anything. I was protected, like I was a top dog, but I wasn't really. But I mean, they wanted to make sure I had nothing ill will to talk about the family
you
on
go
the
back.
country. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they made sure I was comfortable, and I loved it for them. Loved it. Aunts, uncles, you name it. They came out in droves. Some of them will be sleeping on the floor because they know it's a 2-hour drive to the village, and there's no point to go back. I'm going to stay with you for the next 3 days, and then enjoy your presence, and then go back.
Yeah, go back. It's like a good
So
trip for them.
that's an amazing feeling.
I went to Ghana in 2019, and honestly, I felt so at home and so safe. And it's great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, technically, I'm not from there, but I am from there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, so I remember, and like one of the pivotal things that was so interesting was there was one day we were in like one of the outdoor markets, right? And we were getting close. So we're like, whoo, we're getting all these prints and all the aunties are out there, you know? So, and we're just going from shop to shop. And like, so I had already bought something and then I was trying on something and the auntie was like, I don't like how this zipper is zipping up. Let me fix this for you. So she like, I have to take it off and she literally just goes to sew it.
Nice.
And in all that kerfuffle, like we were just chit-chatting or whatever, I was like, okay, I'll come back. So I went to another booth and I was gone for like a good like 10, 15 minutes before I realized I don't have my clothes, my bags, none of my shopping.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, what did I do? I think I left it in the thing. And I go to rush and I get like within eyesight of her tent and she had tucked my bag behind her and had put it behind her and was using it to keep it safe while she sat there on the sewing machine fixing my thing. I literally turned around and I was like, I'm good. I left my stuff there. I was like, hands-free shopping.
That's not Jamaica, but anyway. Let's go back.
And I don't feel like that's. I don't feel like that is like an experience that you can have ever. In UK, I left a bag for like 2 seconds. Apparently, I have problems leaving bags things, and it was gone. Like it was gone like 2 minutes later.
This is not that.
Apparently. Let's bring it back to Canada though. I have a question for you.
I get this.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What's the first racist experience that you remember?
Elementary.
And what was it?
I was surrounded by these twins, Billy, Bob, and
Billy?
like I know, like it couldn't be any more stereotypical. Like
you can't get more racist than that. Billy, Bob, and Joe.
Sorry.
It might have been.
Let's not laugh at your pain.
It might have been both. Like it might have been like Billy and Bobby.
Okay.
Yeah, they were Billy and Bobby, and like they wore the overalls and whatever, like straight out like buzz cut, like they might as well have. Like I think sometimes I remember it like a little bit different, like but it was just like I remember we were playing. I wrote a poem about it. Don't leave me alone.
Some people's retirement. Some people's retirement is shorter than others.
Please go back to the archives. Okay. Well,
but I wrote a poem about it a very long time ago. So, but it was also influenced by there's a famous poet, County Cullen, and he wrote a poem similar to it that was very similar to my experience. And so I wrote kind of like it was kind of like an ode to his piece, but from my experience, right? Yeah. And I was playing. We had like for recess, we have like huge fields. I love the schoolyards in Winnipeg because like your schoolyard is so huge. We think we had like 2 soccer fields. 2 playgrounds, and like depending on which side you are, each grade has their own playground, and so then when we went out for recess, you were only allowed to go in a certain area. So like if you were like grade 5, like so everybody kind of stayed together. So it went from K to 6, and so I think I was about grade 4-ish. So I was on that side of the building. Like I think the divide is like 3 and down, and then 4 to 6 are on opposite sides. And we were playing some kind of game where we had a ball and somebody kicked the ball too far into like the 5th and 6th graders area. And of course I was showing off how fast I was. So I was like, I'll get it. And I'm sprinting and I go to grab the ball and the ball lands like right in them. Like it's just straight out of a movie where the ball slows down and then there's like, and then no, they have like the ball under their foot. You know?
Cinematic.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And then the camera pans up to them.
Exactly. Exactly. You could direct my video just because you saw it, right? You saw it. All right.
This is a Toks story.
So then So then I get there, and then they're like, they just have the ball there, right?
Mhm.
And then they're like, it was just in between. There was another guy. I can't remember who the third person was. He was a lot shorter and smaller.
Jimmy.
But
I was gonna say
I know.
Jimbo.
Jimbo.
Billy, and Bob. And so they surrounded me, and they just started calling me the N-word, which I refused to say, and just like berating me. And I just stood there, and I was like, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. And I was just like holding the tears, you know, like. It was like a Will Smith moment, you know, when Will Smith tries not to cry, and he's just like, you stand there? Yeah, that was one of those moments. I was like, I'm not letting these motherfuckers see me cry, right? And I just, eventually they just gave up because I wasn't reacting to it,
Right.
grabbed my ball, and went back.
You won. You won.
But I remember going back and telling, because like I used to go to my auntie's house, my uncle and auntie's. I go there before and after school, because that's a whole other story. Yeah. Anyways, I go there before and after school, so I told my auntie what happened, and she's like, "Did you punch him in his mouth?"
That's what I thought you were gonna do.
And I was like, "No," because like that's her response, but my mom would be the total opposite. My mom would have been like, "It was the way you reacted would have been it." But I don't even think I told my mom. That's a whole other story either. But yeah, like it was just like I was just like I didn't want him to see that he was affecting me, you know. So that always plays out in my mind, because it's like every time you're like, what if I had punched him? What if, you know, like how, but it was just like a reminder of no matter who you are. And like we had like a good status in the community. My dad was well known. My dad was a principal vice principal in the same school division. Everybody knew who we were, you know what I mean? So we had a level of status, but at the end of the day, you're still black.
Yeah. Now,
right?
My question before we move on is, have you ever, you know how the movies and you go back into that time, the what if game, what if you did punch him or did something? What do you think would happen?
I think he would have punched me back.
No, but would that affect you?
I think it would have been worse.
It would have been worse.
I think it was worse. Now I actually think I like the way that I handled it.
Yeah, well, I do too.
I know. I like the way that I handled it, and I think the fighting, I think it would have, if I couldn't have handled, like, because it kind of showed me, like, if I could handle myself in this situation without, like, losing my cool, I didn't handle anything. Right? Versus if I had lost my cool, then it kind of sets a precedent of, like, somebody, triggers you and you react. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yo, I had.
What about you, Toks? You ever had that? What's your first?
I have never had a racial situation growing up.
Overt?
But that was very overt.
Never.
You never felt like everybody was being.
No, I was that guy.
Well, it doesn't even have to be growing up.
No.
Your first.
My first.
So you could have had it yesterday. It's your first.
My first.
But if you have to think about it, then
I was gonna say go first.
Then maybe you don't have one.
Well, no, I've had, but it's something that kind of just put in the back. Whatever.
Yeah.
Now, this goes back to the trip I took driving from Winnipeg to here.
Winnipeg involved again in racism.
Well, it's not even them. They
need to go.
Hold on. Nothing about Winnipeg.
Yeah.
It was Northern Ontario. Driving.
Yeah, that's pretty much
driving
Winnipeg.
through. Guess what city? The town of White's Road. That's what it was called. White's Road. I was on White's Road.
What are you doing there? I was
driving back down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And they saw my Winnipeg plates. And they said, where are you coming from? I said, I'm from Winnipeg, going to Ontario. What's going on? So, okay, we need to run your blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So they run my stuff. And the lady says, yeah, you can't drive here. I said, why not? So your Ontario license is expired or whatever, suspended. I'm like, I don't live in Ontario anymore. I have a Winnipeg, whatever. I think I can drive. I said, no. Sure enough, she goes and calls the backup. So we had 4 OPP officers surrounding me, telling me that I'm not allowed to drive.
And you have a valid
driver's license. Manitoba,
yeah. So.
But they don't have access to the Manitoba.
I have no idea.
It doesn't matter.
So they told me, and luckily, they said, oh, there's a DMV or whatever, the Ontario or whatever. When that opens up in the morning, you can go there and sort it out. and you'll be on your own. I'm like, okay, no problem. Scout's honor. I'll just sit right there and wait till the morning. It was like, I think it was 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. The place doesn't open till 9. I waited 20 minutes, 30 minutes, jumped in my car, kept on going. I'm like, look at you guys. What are you doing? I don't live here.
And this is why you drive through the U.S.
Is that a
That
better
is
thing?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I can see it being
But again, that
We
was
used
my
to do
one,
that drive.
That was the one that stuck in my head. Again,
Yeah.
I am very, I guess you can call it vanilla. I hate to say it, but vanilla in terms of how people deal with me.
Oh,
It just falls off. I don't really take it in.
Yeah.
Because when people do say the N word to me, I'm like, it doesn't affect me. You don't give them that freaking justice.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm like, whatever. You
I
can say
agree.
what you want, but at the end of the day, I know who I am.
I was talking about,
Yeah,
sorry. So
You're giving
it
me
makes me, like, so if I was talking to, so I was in a situation where I had a racist thing happened. And I was in a situation with a small group, and I was the only black person, and it was black racism, because there's multiple other kinds of racism. And they would ask me questions. And I was fine with answering them because it came, when it was like I know them, we're familiars. And for me, in that moment, like, I know sometimes we get really irritated about having to be the voice of reason, or like be like the black person to represent blackness all the time, you know? But at some times, that actually is what's just gonna have to happen, right? So,
unwritten responsibility.
yeah, there's an unwritten responsibility for it, and I get it. I get it. It's tiring, and you don't have to do it all the time. But getting mad at people for asking questions to me is counterproductive, right?
I think
to
it does
the
also
major
depend
cause.
on how the questions are asked.
Exactly.
If it's constructively asked, I'm fine with it.
Also, and if it's like some random ass person, no, I don't have to answer you. I don't have
Right.
to do nothing for
Right.
you.
Right.
But if you are connected to that person, so then they were asking me questions of be like, hey, this situation happened. What was your view on it?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like, what did you think about it? How did that happen?
Right.
And then there's other times where stuff happened and like somebody said something. I remember this guy made an anti-Asian, like, made a comment to someone who was Asian, and the Asian person was kind of like, and I was like, yo, that was really freaking racist and disrespectful. And they were just kind of like, what? And I was like, coming from me, sometimes I feel like I can get away with saying stuff
Because it's you.
because it's me. That's partially because of me. How I come. Well, that part I was just kind of being a dick about it. But but at that point we had already I had that kind of relationship with that person where I'm just kind of be like, don't come for me.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I had to be like, yo, that what you said, that was really disrespectful and you should apologize. And they were just like, what did I do? And I explained what they did, and they're like, I did? And they didn't even realize that they did it. Like they were making a reference to something Asian, and then they used an Asian accent, like that stereotypical comedy accent. And I was like, do you just realize what you just did? And he was like, I did that? And he's like, oh my God. He's like, I'm so sorry. Right?
I've been guilty of
Yeah,
that
and he said, like, he was like, he didn't even, like, I could totally tell it was unintentional, and he realized that he didn't say, that he didn't do it intentionally.
Right.
And so what I took his apology as very genuine, and the person that he did to was just kind of like, oh, okay. And they were a lot younger too, so like them just being like, oh, I shouldn't just take that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
It's also there's also as being a black person,
we get away with being
we're not as accepting, generally speaking, of course, as other races are. We're not as docile either.
But at the same time, we're the flagship of people's aggression.
But that's part of it. I
Right.
think that's
So
part
I
of
don't
it.
see many people. Again, we'll go back to the '90s. It was only really black and white that were being talked about or spoken about in terms of what you weren't talking about East Indians back then.
well, it's because we're race number 2.
Pretty much.
That's what I'm saying.
We're not, but we are.
Technically race number one.
Yeah, but we'll give them that one for now.
The back and forth was white and black. You didn't have East Indian. You didn't have Asian. You didn't have all the other ones because no one knew.
It's
But
changing.
now,
It's changing.
that's what I'm saying. So now, the influx of people migrating and going all over the place, people don't know how to like respond, so they just respond ignorant, and because they don't know better.
Yeah.
They're standing in front of I think there was a UK ad. No, it wasn't an ad. Sorry, a comic skit or whatever. And there was a black man that was an Asian man talking to a black man. They were scared because they've never seen a black person before. So they ran, right? I'm like, wow. But again, they're not used to it, and I get it because it's new to them. But again, we have been at it for years with white people, so you're gonna get that all the time. They're used to the battle. They're used to it. We're used to freaking defending against them.
There's also a socializing with us, I believe. It's similar to, not even similar, it's the strong black whatever person.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be aggressive. We're supposed to be this, that, the third.
We're not supposed to be. They just made us to be.
Well, that's when I say supposed to be, I mean from their viewpoint.
Yes, okay.
So there's, that causes more eggshell stepping on their side.
Yeah.
And if they're not eggshell stepping, and they say something like in your example that's racist, they're more accepting of us telling them it's wrong because, like you're saying, we're experts on the matter, so to speak, and they're more afraid of us.
Yep.
Well, I even had.
Fear.
I remember I went. This could be a segue. I moved to our next session. Probably not today. We're not going to get too deep into this. But I remember going on a date with a guy who was race-wise Caucasian, culture Turkish, and he. I remember being on a date and him like making racist remarks towards Asian people, and I was like, why did you think that was okay to say that in front of me?
Because they're not here. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I called him on it. Right? I called him on it, and he was surprised that I would say something, and I was just like, I'm against all racism. I was like, I'm against all racism, not just not black racism.
That's not
Like, I know.
Doesn't mean it's okay.
I'll keep it even more 100 than that.
Yeah.
I was talking about this the other day. I will not engage in any racial conversations to downplay other races with white people. I might do it with Indian people. I might do it with Asian people. But I'm not letting a white person stand there and talk about Indians or Asians or blacks. No, you don't get that. You don't get that privilege.
You've already established that you think you're the dominant. So
yeah, no. Because I know as soon as I'm gone,
they're talking about you. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
That's why.
So I'm not allowing you.
My workplace is predominantly white, so I'm like, whether I step to you or not, you're gonna say what you're gonna say anyways. So I just walk away. I said, you say what you want. I know who I am. I know what I bring, and that's it. But I mean, it's gonna be. I doubt I'm going to be the one that's going to change your perspective of black people.
It's interesting you say that. Oh, okay.
But are you trying to change?
How am I going to change 400 people by myself?
For me, it's not about change. That's why it's interesting you say it. But you had a question?
I don't think, but I think mine's similar to yours. But is it about change or is it about them disrespecting you specifically?
Right.
It's a bit of both. You want them to change, and you wish you had the power to change them, but in the end, you know it's not going to change them, so they're going to continue to disrespect you.
This is where I disagree. I understand what you're saying, and I don't. I agree with it to an extent. I agree with the part where they're not going to change in front of you. For me, that's the important part.
Yeah.
You don't have to. I'm not going to change you, but you're not going to deal with me
like that.
You can deal with any other guy who's going to allow you to do it, but not in front of me either,
100%.
but not to me. To bring it back to our first racial experience, I think that's why I kind of asked you guys this question. For me, it was elementary as well, and one of my schoolmates' mothers or grandmother were picking them up, and she said, I don't even remember what she said at this point, I probably pushed it on my mind, but she said something, and it wasn't even to me, but it was some N-word comment to one of the other black kids. But things were multicultural then. Like where I was going to elementary was a multicultural area. All of us damn near attacked her.
Serious?
All of us. And she never came back. She never came back to pick up her kid ever again.
And you know what? You had backup. So.
Yeah.
And I had support.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference. But I also think that kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, shaped the way that I look at those things. I'm not saying I'm mature enough and I guess quote unquote smart enough to know that not every situation tolerates an aggressive response,
Right.
but some do. Like I've had this question. You guys can answer it too. When we were we're still going through it. But when at the heights of this police brutality thing, the question was the banter back and forth was one side would say, "Well, just comply, do what they say," right? And my mind was always, I don't know, man. I don't know if I could do that. And then people would say, "But what if you have a kid? And what are you going to tell your kid?" And I'm like, I don't think I could teach my kid to be a coward. Because that's what it felt like to me. I understand.
Yeah.
But that's what it feels like to me.
Right.
Accepting the way that they're treating you, it sometimes feels like a coward. Like I would be a coward, but I do understand the just make it home safe. I get the just make it home safe. The just of that is my problem. Make it home safe, I get. But the just make it home safe, that just indicates being docile, being accepting of the treatment that you're getting,
Right.
regardless of how bad it is, regardless of how wrong they are, because you just want to get home. And I don't know if that's the thing we should be teaching our children as well.
I don't know. I feel like I gotta do a little bit of. I feel like there's like a middle ground sometimes. It's not always going to work because some people are very determined to, they're stuck in their ways, right? And I've been in a couple situations where it's like, I've been in like where cops are doing something to either a group of black people, or I was in a car full, there was 4 of us, 4 adults going to brunch at noon on a Sunday, get pulled over by bike cops, surrounded by bike cops, just because, you know? And they're just like, why are you in this neighborhood? Your plates say you don't live here. Like when they check the license. And you're just kind of like, I am in a car that drives to many places. And I just remember being so livid and just like being like, why are you asking these questions? Why did you pull us over? Who do you think you are? Like, you know what I mean? And like my partner at the time, he was just like silent and just taking it. And I was just like, I was like, you comply, I'll be the dick. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let me be the asshole right now. Let me, because I was like, they're like, why are you over here? I'm like, I live here. Like, you know, like giving them attitude.
Well, I think I get probably why he was doing that.
Yeah, I get.
To a point.
I do. I 100% got it. Right. Yeah. I wasn't mad at him for doing it.
No, but I mean,
especially because I was there to be able to be like, don't do this again. And I was like, 4 grown adults in their 40s. Like, I don't think I was in my 40s yet. They were in their 40s. Everybody else was in their 40s except for me. And I was like, 4 adults in their 40s cannot go for a brunch. And they're like, well, what's the brunch place? And I'm like, we're going to this new place and it's called blah, blah. And they're like, I've never heard of it. And I'm like, it's new.
Are you going to the brunch? Are you going to the brunch?
Like, this is how I'm talking to the dude.
Some people just,
right?
They're just itching for a fight.
But it's interesting because, like, sorry, I'm going to do another quickie. But, like, crossing the border once, this guy was driving me. It was a white guy. Driving me to the airport, to drop me at Buffalo Airport, and he asked me a dumb question, like
I've been through that too.
He asked me like a really dumb question, and I look at him and I was like, "Is that a real question?" And then as soon as we got through, the white guy looks at me and he's like, "Oh, did you have to give him attitude?" And I'm like, "He was giving me attitude." Like, I was like, "Do you want me to just like, is that complying?" And like, if you know me, I'm not that person who's just like attitude cussing everybody out every time. I'm like, no, but I'm not going to just lie down and have someone just like speak to me. And unnecessary. It was very unnecessary the way he's like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, this. And I was like, whatever I did at the time. I think I worked at a software development company. And he's like, how long have you worked there? And I'm like, 3 years. And he's like, what are the details of your job? And I was just like, why do I need to tell you this? Like, I was just like, what does this have to do with me
Yeah,
crossing
okay.
the border?
So again, it's situational. So for
Right?
me, in that situation, I wouldn't take that as.
I don't know if that was the exact thing. The question was really ridiculous
No, I've been
as
there.
to like
Yeah, I've been there.
it was just had nothing to do of consequence.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been on a trip where I've been crossing the border, and they've asked me what I do for work, and I say I wasn't working at the time, and I was with a girl. I was like, I'm following her. She's going shopping, and the guy's like,
Extra
well, why are
question.
you going? So I'm following her.
Yeah.
She's going shopping. And he kept kind of asking those questions. But I think compliance a lot of times has to do with how much you want to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
Or how much you don't want the trouble that day.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us are more for the trouble on a regular basis than others are.
Yeah, and that's why I said the person you were with didn't want the trouble that day.
That day.
But on another day, he probably could have took that
Yeah.
smoke and he could have thrown hands. But again, you have to understand your surroundings. You have to understand who you're dealing with, where you are, to know whether it's good to fight or have flight. Because the minute you stand up to that person, you're on freaking the 9 o'clock news.
And sometimes you don't have. Sometimes you're not thinking. It's not a thought process.
Oh, and sometimes reactive.
Oh, it's totally
Sometimes it's
in the moment.
Yeah, it all depends on how you're moving with me. If it's subtle, what I would like to think for myself is that I can attack the situation intelligently. So much like you were saying with somebody calling you the N-word and you laughing it off, I would like to believe that's something I would be doing. I'd be laughing it off, and I might say something back to you that I hope makes you feel stupid. But I'm still not in the, what the fuck are you doing? Who the fuck are you calling it? I'm not gonna do that. I'm more on the, go back to where you come from. So yeah, going back to Brampton.
But you know what? The laughing, it actually is almost worse than
Right.
is for people. Because I laugh when I'm annoyed or angry. Sometimes I laugh, and people will
Get upset.
It gets people really
Absolutely.
upset.
Rouse them up.
Absolutely.
What are you laughing about?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Hey boy, what are you laughing about?
I remembered the question he asked me. He asked me, I was going to New York, and he's like, why are you going to New York? I'm like, to visit friends. And he's like, how do you know them? And I was like, they're my friends. And he's like, but how do you know people who live in New York? And I was just like, I don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. And I literally was very confused, and I said it like that.
Yeah.
So and the guy who was with me is like, why'd you give him attitude? And I was like, I didn't even give him attitude.
It's just a stump. It's to trip you up. That's the
Know
thing.
anybody in New
Too.
York?
I know.
How do you know?
Exactly. I was like,
It's questions to
Oh
trip
my
you
God.
up. They try to.
I was like,
Exactly.
especially law
You want that
enforcement. They
reaction.
try to
I
trip
have
you up.
friends everywhere. Like, I was like, I don't know how to answer that. I don't know what you want me to say.
What's your business?
I know.
What's your
question?
Why do you don't?
That is a dumb like that.
Like, I was like, how do
I?
I still don't. It has been like 20 years, and I still don't know how to answer that. I was like, how do you know
it's
that?
designed to be dumb. So
Yeah.
You do the.
Or if you have a good answer right away, that's
then
probably
it's too
worse.
fast.
Yeah.
Right.
It's probably worse if
Yeah.
you have a good answer. The
Yeah,
fact
they're
that I was
trained to
like,
do that stuff.
Yeah,
the fact that I was
exactly.
like,
They're trained.
I don't know how to
People are
answer that.
trained to do that.
I wish we could get into that law enforcement a little bit more, but our time is
I know.
True that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's time.
There you have it. Our producer just told us that we got a wrap.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill.
Jimbo.
I
Well, we should
can't.
definitely do a part 2. This was a good one. We should definitely do a part 2. We have a part 2 of the male body image, and now we have a part 2
Notice that we only have part
Black
twos when
in
I'm
Canada.
here. Period.
of
I'm watching Love is Blind right now, and this girl says
I
period.
can't.
every
She
2
says
minutes.
period like
Oh,
everything.
I can't.
It's
Those
just in my
shows,
head now.
I can't.
No, we can't. Let's not get into trash show. We're gonna wrap it up because we gotta clean up and get out. That's
And we're gonna go eat
we're
dinner.
gonna go eat some food.
Dinner.
It's another edition of Darkness with the Ginger Hue
I'm the ginger.
and the racism. But this is only part 1. We'll get back to it.
Oh, we definitely gonna.
We'll get back
We need to
to
get some people who have that are
Different
not.
experience.
Well, not even different. Just
A array of
yeah,
cultural backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shrikesh would be good.
Yeah.
On this
We'll
one.
bring Shakash
Not
back
even
in.
that, but
That's
even
interesting, yeah.
even we need the actual outspoken. I hate to say it, cash mentality.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what
No,
I'm
I do
saying?
see what you're saying.
That outlandish,
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah, I
Because
see what you're saying.
we're very calm individuals.
Yeah.
When it comes to dealing with this.
Well, unless I have a guy like Cash to bounce off.
Yeah, exactly. But,
Don't include this in the episode.
but anyways, that's it. That's all. We're out of here.
Wait, we should do an episode